Welcome to Sharing Our Stories, the podcast where the vibrant tapestry of our community unfolds through the voices of its residents. Brought to you by the Chilton Public Library, this series invites you to embark on a journey of discovery as we delve into the personal narratives, cherished memories, and unique experiences that make our town truly special. Join us as we celebrate the diverse stories that weave together the fabric of Chilton, Wisconsin, one captivating tale at a time. Sit back, listen, and let the power of storytelling connect us all. This is Sharing Our Stories.
Well, it is February 13th, 2024, and Glennie Whitcomb here with the Chilton Public Library. Very excited and happy to be talking today with Lori Leppin of Wild Chicory in Stockbridge. And I love hearing people's stories about how they came to start their own business, how they found their way into it. And I love what you do. I love your shop. I'm a big fan. And I'm wondering if you could share the story of how and when you started your small business, that sort of thumbnail sketch, if there is one.
Okay, so the Wild Chicory in Stockbridge started 6 years ago. Carl and I, my husband Carl and I, own the shop, and it is a conglomeration of salvage furniture that we rehab, home decor, plants, vintage things. It's everything you would have in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we offer it at the store. And then we display it. I used to do interior design and decorating for people. I painted for people. And for many, many years, probably 15 or 16 years, I did that. And this showcases a lot of my interior decorating.
So the experience that you grew and learned over the years by being an interior designer, decorator.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes, I had done that for a long time. I used to own stores like this as well. I had 3 other stores before. And then I was also married to somebody else when I owned those stores, and they were in different parts of the state.
So which parts, can you go the different states and the names of the stores?
They were all in Wisconsin. The one store was called Raspberry Gables, and we had 3 locations of that. And it was in Appleton, Berlin, and Green Lake. And then we also had a store called Bliss, which was a coffee shop and tea room and a home decor artistic design kind of place as well. That was also in Green Lake.
Okay. And then you moved to this part of the state.
Yes. And then I got divorced. My businesses ended. I took a break from interior design and decorating for about a year, maybe a year and a half. Carl and I met and got married, and we moved to Fond du Lac first. And we did the interior design while we were in Fond du Lac, and we had an opportunity to move to this area. We didn't know anybody in this area. Neither of us is really from this area, and we just loved it over here. We had one friend over here, and we used to come and help her on her horse farm, and we really loved the area. And one day we just found a place to rent out in the country, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
We moved here. I think we've been here 13 years now.
Okay. Wow. Well, I'm glad you're in this part of the state.
Thank you. We are too.
Are there so it makes sense to me that you were an interior designer, because when you walk into your store, it feels very homey, and there's rooms. I mean, it's almost as though you're doing different
vignettes and
yes, which is fun to see and to give ideas of what you could do at home.
Right.
And so that makes sense. Can you think of something that was like one of the biggest challenges in starting or maintaining your business?
That's actually fairly easy. Carl and I are both, because of our histories and experiences we've had in the past, there were a couple things I knew, having owned businesses before that, when we opened this, that I didn't want to repeat from what I had done before. And the biggest one was to not go into debt and to do this without any debt. And so we started with almost no money. A friend of mine borrowed me a couple $1,000s to get started. And then I did get a grant. It wasn't really a grant. It was a no interest loan from, she had just started it, actually, that I was the first recipient of their loan program. A woman in Appleton was doing this for women to empower women.
Yes.
And so it made me nervous because I don't like debt. I don't like loans, but we didn't have any way to, we got the store up and running, but we needed money to keep inventory coming in. And we had no other outside income coming in anymore. And so we took this loan and paid it back that year. And then just maintained and have slowly and steadily grown by taking, whenever we make a profit, we roll it back into the store. And so Carl and I both live frugally. And so that's really important for us to maintain no debt within the business.
Good for you. That's really quite amazing, because it's really, in our culture, it's just really easy to find yourself in debt really fast, just blinking.
It is important for us. It is really hard some days because I see other businesses that, get this really cool inventory in, and they're, they carry lots of inventory. And sometimes it's disappointing that I can't do that. And yet at the end of the day, I sleep really well at night. I don't have to worry that I'm not selling this product. Now, how am I going to get that product in? And we also carry consignment items from local artists. And that keeps our inventory really different and really interesting. Plus, we're supporting the local artists.
I love that.
And so we don't necessarily have to rely on ordering stuff in. So that's...
And I love seeing how you how you upcycle so many things. I've seen things in your back room that are like, oh, gee, I'm glad she sees a future there.
Yes.
And then I'll see it when it's complete, and it's wow.
Thank you.
It's really quite something.
Yes, that's fun. I used to do that with rooms, and now I just do it with furniture.
Yeah. That's great. How do you like, so you were in bigger cities and towns, your businesses before, and now you're in a much smaller town. How is being in a smaller community a smaller town? Because population, Stockbridge.
So Stockbridge is probably going to be similar to Green Lake. And Green Lake was a pretty small community. Okay. But it's a lake community with a lot of Chicago.
So I think seasonal
support, very seasonal. I prefer, having been in a big city and been in a small town. Stockbridge is small. I prefer small towns. And people have said to us, "Oh, you should be in Appleton. Your store is so neat. You'd have so many more customers." That's not the point of why we're where we are. Our overhead is affordable and manageable. But beyond that, we're filling a need in the area, and it draws people away from the big cities to experience what a beautiful community this area is. And for me, it's all connected. Hilbert and Chilton and Stockbridge and New Holstein, they're all connected. And so we encourage people to shop and to visit all the places along the lakeshore because it's such an inviting atmosphere in our area. And there's a lot to do. Yeah.
And cross-advertise and share each other's.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I noticed there's different events where people can follow a map.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And we have brochures at the store with a map on it.
Is one coming up this spring, maybe?
Yes. Vintage Shop Hop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a fun thing.
Yes.
How has living in a rural community shaped your perspective on, speaking to this, community connection and the pace of life?
So for me, it's interesting. Carl never lived in a small town before he met me. He always lived in cities. And I grew up in a small town, and I grew up in the country. And so I prefer that kind of lifestyle. I like that everybody knows me. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. But for the most part, what I found is even when you're not alike and you have differences, the small town, people care and they know about you and they support you. And we've had the most tremendous support from locals in our store. It's just been mind-blowing to me that people are so supportive of small businesses in our area. And COVID was a great example. People really made sure that we stayed viable during COVID. So
that's good to hear.
Whereas in a city,
everybody's
people don't seem to care. It's a fly by night, or you're just kind of you're not part of something more. You're just another one that might come in and go out,
Right.
It nameless almost.
Right. More anonymous.
Right.
How has your since your sort of evolution through your different stores and now at Wild Chicory, how have your offerings evolved? I imagine that kind of probably changes.
It's changed a bit. It's interesting. I do have a few customers who still shop with me, who shopped with me in the 90s when I had my stores in the 90s. And they can even tell me what they bought from me in the 90s, which is
that's fun.
Kind of cool.
Loyal customers. Loyal customers.
Very loyal customers, yes. Yeah, I would say that for the most part, not much has changed. There's a jewelry artist actually that I carry, that I represent, that she's a very dear friend of mine. I have carried her jewelry in all of my stores since 1991.
Fun.
And so that's stayed the same. It's kind of cool. I think it goes with trends. I used to do a lot of floral arranging, and that was very popular in the 90s. And I'd have real estate agents come in, buy like wall floral arrangements or vase arrangements for house gifts and things like that. I don't really do that much anymore because styles change. It's not as necessary, but I still make a lot of pillows, and I always made a lot of pillows and table runners and things like that. And the furniture is something I never did in the 90s, and it's fun to do that now.
Yeah. Would you say there was someone who helped you or inspired you to start your business originally? Like, because you've had quite an evolution of businesses through the thing, through the years, when your first business to what you have now. And how did you first come to start a store?
There was a woman who my first husband and I were doing craft shows in the 90s. We were making things and doing craft shows. And part of that was out of necessity. We needed a way to earn some extra money, and I started making things, and they were selling really well. So we started doing craft shows and did quite well with them. And a woman, the local newspaper where I lived at the time, which was my hometown, the local newspaper did an article about us. And we were young, and my daughter, I think, was a year old. And we were living in an apartment above the Hallmark store in downtown Berlin and making these things and doing shows. And this woman saw this article, and I think in the article I had just said it would be really neat someday to have a store. And I had always visualized that for myself, that, I could see myself doing that. It wasn't what I went to school for, but I'm not a very good rule follower, so to speak. So I needed something where I was self-employed because I'm better at being self-motivated. So this woman saw this article, and she called me up, and she told me who she was. Her name was Jeanette Kretzman. And she said, I have a property that I think would work for you. she said it's zoned commercial, but it's a house. It's a block off of Main Street. It has right now there was a retail store in the downstairs and there's an apartment upstairs. And she told me how much it would be to rent. It was like $300 for the entire house at the time, and which was cheaper than the rent we were paying at the time. And we could have a business in it. And I thought somebody had just handed me the moon. And she just said, I just think that this would be a great fit for you. And so we went and looked at it, and it was everything was, it was a beautiful old Victorian house, but it had been changed in the 70s in not such a good way. So there was a lot of paneling and things like that. We got it up to speed, redid things on the inside, and then made arrangements with her that we could paint the outside of it. So we painted it this beautiful raspberry on the gables and taupes, and it was beautiful. It really turned out nice, and that was where the name came from for our first store. And Jeanette was my friend for a long time, and she sold us the property. Then eventually, that was in the agreement, was that we could rent it, and then after a few years, we could buy it outright from her. So
that's a great story. Oh,
yeah, she believed in me, and she gave us a chance, and she did it in such a way we could afford to do it.
That's wonderful. That's encouraging. I mean, and to hear stories of people encouraged, that's a win-win all the way around. What words of wisdom would you offer to someone considering starting a business?
You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. That is, and that comparison is the thief of joy. It's easy to compare yourself and think you're not good enough or not doing well enough, but you have to believe in yourself first and foremost, and believe in what you're doing, even on the days when it seems like you're a failure. There's just days when things don't go well, or weeks where you're wondering, why am I doing this? It will turn around. You have to believe in yourself. That people feel that. Your customers come in and they feel that from you. They know that. They can sense it.
Yeah, I notice that when I come in and there's other people in your store, everyone's chatting and sharing, and it's a very welcoming environment that does foster communicate. People are
I want people to come in and be inspired. I want to be inspired by other people. I want them to come in and be inspired also.
So it's a two-way street.
Yes.
Nice. Do you see, is this something you see doing for, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but
Carl and I have talked about this. We really don't believe either of us will ever retire because
you're doers, makers.
Pardon?
You're creators and
doers
we are. We're
makers. Creators, and we like working, because for us, our work isn't really work. It's just who we are. It's what we do. And we have a really hard time taking off. We work all the time. We usually work 7 days a week. Even though the store isn't open 7 days a week, I'm usually there working on projects for people or redoing displays for the store, pricing things. There's always something that needs to be done. So no, we don't really see.
I think I remember you once telling me, though, it's a conscious that you are building your life in such a way that you don't want to take a vacation because you love where you are.
That is true. That is correct. And we love we rent, where we live, we rent. We choose not to own a home. And our landlord's been very good to us. We have a greenhouse. We have a huge garden. We have chickens. We like where we live. And so that was our goal. When Carl and I met, let me back up. When I had the store in Green Lake that was called Bliss, the store, that name came from a Joseph Campbell quote, that if you follow your bliss, then the life you ought to be living will be the life you are living. And so that has always been my mantra in life. And Carl and I both agreed when we got married that that is what we wanted. We wanted to create a life that we didn't need a vacation from. So neither of us, people ask me all the time, oh, do you travel? Do you like to go on vacation? No. We really love being at home or being at work. We just...
That's a wonderful way to live.
Yeah. We don't have this need to do that.
That's wonderful. I'm thinking that I want to thank you today for coming in, because that's a beautiful place to end right there, to think about how we live our lives and intentionally set goals for ourselves and ways of being.
Yes.
And I want to thank you so much for coming in today,
Sure,
Lori.
thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yes, it was my pleasure. Thanks.
As we bring this episode of Sharing Our Stories to a close, we want to express our gratitude to all the storytellers who generously shared a piece of their lives with us. Your stories have added depth and richness to the tapestry of our community, reminding us that every narrative, no matter how big or small, contributes to the beautiful mosaic of Chilton. If you have a story you'd like to share, or you've been inspired by today's episode, we encourage you to reach out. The Chilton Public Library is here to celebrate, preserve, and amplify the voices that make our town unique. Thank you for joining us on this storytelling journey. Until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and keep the spirit of our community alive through the power of your stories. This was Sharing Our Stories.